Hello, Kickstarters. This is a quick Mech Command RTS update about the advanced copy received and the last week on Thursday, and the sort of the issues with everything's pretty good to go. Everything's printed and manufactured. They didn't send us an actual real advanced copy, which would be a randomly selected core set and expansions from a pile, from a stack. Because of all the revisions that we've been doing, they just assembled a bunch of individual parts. I'll do a whole spread of the full of all the different advanced copies, but first we wanted to do a quick update to discuss the board. So I've already pulled out the top layer, the mechs and the lights, and those are all great. But the board has a question mark on it, and everything else has turned out really good. There is actually a slight issue with the tokens, but not enough to pause us. Mech boards, mech sheets, everything turned out. Everything's very, very solid. The lights, except for this really strange and wonky board, and we just kind of wanted to take your pulse on it. So let me open it up. It's very thick. The print is okay. We could have used like a little bit more of a saturated print. It's very, very sturdy, but as it turns out, the printer that Verino's been using for all the basic board game components is not part of their supply chain. It's a company called Solart here, and here's the board. So it's not bad, except that they've made it in a way that I've never seen before. They've encased the board like they floated it, and the whole board is like encased and separate within the art print. Now they did do the art print on an extremely thick double wrapped layer, and then the board itself is also double wrapped because there's two sides, so it's very, very thick. The whole thing's very, very heavy. I don't think that'll come through on the camera. But we had some concerns about this thing because, I mean, they've been making board games since the 1930s, and I don't think there's ever been one that made like this. Functionally, it's just fine. It's thick, it's heavy, it's ergonomic, it's nice that it lays flat. A lot of like stiff boards have a little pop-up on it. The buildings go over these strange gap lines, which I find unsightly. They did fix all the hex. The reason why we reprinted the board, in fact, that's what kicked off all of our quality assurance reprints at the end of, right before Chinese New Year. And they actually got to it at the beginning of March. That worked out really well, so it's all sized really nicely now. But... And it's actually still functional with these sort of grooves. In fact, I was basically making this video saying, hey, we've got to do something about this, but maybe it's okay. So we spent the last week. The reason why we haven't given you an update on this before is because we needed to find out and discover four things. One, are they willing to pay for a reprint, because this is not how board games are made. And as it turns out, the printers making those components has not made a traditional board game. They're normally a card maker, and they've done tokens and they've done cards, and like the cards turned out great. We've seen samples of them before, but this is the actual production line. And these turned out really good. They've got a good coating on it. They've got good snap. Not that you actually deal these out or anything like that, but these are great. But as it turns out, they were a little bit embarrassed by our disdain of this board, and they are willing to pay for it. But two, are they even capable of making a regular cut board? And three, if not them, who would they get to remake that board? And four, how long would that take? So we spent the last week trying to get that data, get that information, and I don't have all of it. So what we do know is that they will pay to reprint the board. Great, because we couldn't afford to do that on our own at this point. Two, I don't think are capable of making a board. I've been working with them for the past week, just sending diagram after diagram. So normally this has bookbinding tape that connects these two and creates a hinge. And that just blew their minds. So the hinge is actually done with the board itself. And what I'd be concerned about is wear and tear. But we have put this board through its paces. I've opened it, shook it, played on it, reopened it, tossed it around about 100 times. So I don't know if that's like a good simulation of actually playing it 100 times, but it strangely has held up really, really well. But I don't think they're capable of doing it. So we're going to have to outsource it to a more traditional board game printer. And they've got someone lined up for that as of this morning. But for what I don't know is how long is that going to take? And I know that's kind of essential information for us to have. And we also kind of wanted to run it past you. What are you thinking? And I know you kind of need to know how long it will take or what the estimate is in order to make an informed decision. But I didn't want to wait too much longer without kind of bringing this to your attention. The whole game is poised and ready to be packed up as soon as we send them like our remaining 1/3, which is about 40 grand, and they'll pack it up and freight it up, and they can begin that. They'll probably have it packed up early next week if we approve this board, this weird, funky board. So they also created a new board in response to our issues here and expressed it out, overnighted it out, but it turned out to be pretty much exactly the same. It's stiffer. We're like, well, it's got a flex to it, and it's really thick. But those are actually kind of the two good things. They still encased it with that same method that you see here. These strange lines. So that solution that we were kind of waiting for, their fix, didn't really pay out. I mean, the thing is really tough. I mean, we've been doing this like crazy, and I think if with this big of a board, this is a really larger board that a lot of the board game manufacturers that we talk to wouldn't even make it quite at this size. If you're doing a board this size and ripping it around, I think it would potentially tear, and these don't. So maybe they've got a point. But before we extended any more time to make yet a third set of boards, or just paid them and packed up and got them on their way, we wanted to check in with you guys and kind of take your pulse on this. So please let us know what you think. I know it's too soon because we don't have that vital information of how long a delay would take, but we will update you as soon as I know. I personally, and I'm picky. I don't know if you guys watch all my videos, but I am picky. But we're also, we're coming into 9 months past our schedule here. And so I'm about 50-50 on this thing. Like, this has taken up about 3.5 to 4 years of my life. And it would be a shame to, like, in the home stretch, put out an inferior product on what is designed to be a custom, pretty deluxe game. But it is functional. Anyway, I myself would be partial to, like, 2 weeks. But past that, I'm kind of inclined to just. What I'm saying is, like, if they could fix this in 2 weeks, and it's only 1,100 copies, 1,075 going into core sets, and then 25 extras just for replacements. I don't think it will take them that long, but you never know. As it started to go past those 2 weeks, I'd be inclined to just say, nope, pack them up. Let's get this thing on the road. So let us know what your comments are. Let us know what your thoughts are, and we'll keep you updated as quickly as as soon as we know more. It's been a lot of back and forth with them and their potential outsource board game printer. I'll do a more extensive full unboxing of everything. The only other compromise we'd be making by printing right away is these punch board tokens. So this is the This is the samples, so you see how thick they are. And we kind of chose particularly extra thick ones so that they have some weight to it and you can pick them up easily. But then on their own initiative, they switched to this much thinner one. And the reason why is, and the reason why we had the issue was, in the first place, is that these thicker tokens were just falling out of the punch board. And that's what popped up on our quality assurance back right before Chinese New Year. Actually, this one popped up a little bit afterwards. They were just falling out, and as soon as they took it off the press, there'd be like a whole pile of tokens, and then they had people like manually collecting them and putting them into the box. And because of that, we had games that were missing 5, 6 tokens. Other boxes had extra tokens. One game was missing 10, which would be all right if it was these sort of new multi-function tokens, which are just designed to be extra damage, self-destruct buttons, player tokens, color reminders, and then we also have like some drones and turrets on the back. That would be okay, but the problem is these objective tokens, the uplink, and the objective tokens, the mines, retrieval, salvage, we have a mission that uses every single one of them. So like you have to have, you can't be missing one of those. Anyway, so that was one of the quality assurance issues that kicked off actually reprinting these tokens. And in order to make it precise and solve that problem, they just, on their own, made these much thinner. Let me give you an example of side by side. So you can see the difference there. So that's not good. And normally I'd be like, what? But at this late date, the fact that these are still functional, like you can still pick them up easily. Like really thin tokens are sometimes hard to pick up, but these are big enough and chunky enough. It's not really an issue. I prefer not to. I mean, this is better, but this is already printed up. I mean, we've got 1,100 of these already printed up. These are ready to go. So it's one of these like end game sort of compromise. I'm not too worried about this one. I think we'll have to compromise with this one, and the tokens are still functional and they still feel pretty good. So the real question was this board is what had me concerned. And then this had a print. These are supposed to have a print on the outside. I'm just going through all the problems. Am I scaring you out of the project now? I guess you guys have been waiting long enough. If anybody was going to leave, they were going to leave already. So this is supposed to have this really cool little print on the outside, and he says that some of them did have it and some of them don't. I don't really get that, but this was just a bonus thing that we worked in at the end. We weren't ever planning on this. This is the boxes were just going to be in the cards were just going to be in cellophane. So I'm not delaying the game for this either. Some of them apparently will have this, kind of cool little mech and logo on the outside, and some of them won't. I suppose if we end up printing new boards, then that would be something I would potentially fix, but I really just don't want to do anything. I don't want to rock the boat at this point, so I would think long and hard before making those changes. Other than those two compromises, I feel like everything turned out great. Man, I love how these dish elements, look at this, they pull out and then you're ready to go. You can distribute these to your players. And there's room for the white and purple in here as well. The lights can go in here, but they also could fit up on top next to the buildings. And these if you saw the last update, these were supposed to have dividers in them, but it didn't work out. This tray is the tray's good. It's really thick and nice. Mech boards turned out great. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll do a whole unboxing later. For now, let's focus on the board. We want to kind of get a decision on this in the next 24 hours of whether to go for a remake of this, where it'd be a more traditional board, or run with what we have. Let us know. Otherwise, we're very close. There's a Chinese factory warehouse sitting with all of the components all made, ready to be packed up on our say-so. So, and that say-so is really your say-so. So let us know. Thanks.